Okay, so a few weeks ago I picked up a a Goldwing. I've already had like 5 of these things. Only one that was actually rideable. The other were part bikes. And this one was free, no title. It was abandoned in a storage unit, basically. And at the same time, I picked up a 92 ZX 750 GA and a 1982 CB 750 SC twin cam. I always make these little vlogs, but I never post them. I really just make them for myself, just to keep track of what the hell I'm doing, because I'm all over the place. But this is just kind of cool, and I'm really at a crossroad right now because I have nice motorcycles. I don't need anything, actually. I don't want for anything. But I'll explain in a second what I'm talking about. So, hold on. So this is that 82 CB750 SC. This one runs. I broke the ignition with a screwdriver and put some quick start through the airbox, and this one fires right up. So, no title. The story is the guy died. You know, who knows what the real deal is. So, there's that. There's my WR. I have to put a new sprocket on this thing because that's a whole nother story. They come with a 13-tooth front sprocket, which you'd think is fine, but it's actually small, and what happens is it starts to eat through the swing arm here really bad. That's why I 3D printed this new chain guide, and I'm going to put a 14-tooth. It just gives you a little more space, and hopefully it won't chew through that guide there. It's the only real problem that these bikes have. Very common thing. So that's that. And then we have this thing. And it's an 86 Goldwing. It's a GL1200 Aspencade, which is like top of the line in 86. This was the nicest Goldwing that you could get, I'm pretty sure. The only option it doesn't have is fuel injection. I believe that there was a fuel injection option in 86. But let me just go over it real quick, because I don't know what to do. I have an Indian Scout. It's a 2018. I really wanted a Dark Horse Chief back when they were called Chiefs, but I just couldn't afford it. And me and my father-in-law went to a bunch of different dealerships, and finally we ended up at Monmouth County Indian dealership, and I fell in love with this Scout. And I gotta tell you, it's a great motorcycle. People think they're small because they're only like 1100 cc's or whatever, but the thing's a goddamn rocket ship, even with bags and everything on it. But there's something really tempting about a full dresser. I've ridden Ultra Classics. I did like 300 miles on one in Florida back in 09, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. And I like the newest Goldwings, but I don't like the Goldwings in between this 86 and the newest ones. I think they looked really stupid in the 90s. This one is just enough that I can handle. If it was any more goofy, I wouldn't be able to even look at it. So anyway, let's see. So, this thing is in really good shape. Someone took really good care of it. It's got a little bit of clear coat there, I'm thinking I could probably wet sand it and just put a light coat over it, if I even care enough to do so. The bezel's broken. This thing's been down before. There's a few spots where the crash bars have like a, you know, a good abrasion area. So that's that. This is all blemished, but a lot of this chrome is just dirty. Even those valve covers, which is all aftermarket. This thing's got a ton of drag specialty stuff on it. Chrome timing covers, chrome radiator guard, chrome fork covers in the front. These are terrible, but they're plastic anyway. But the rest of this stuff will polish out. I could almost guarantee that stuff will look perfect when I'm done. If I go crazy. The bags, again, everything's in really good shape. Like the paint is in great shape for an 86. The trunk is in good shape. When I was going over it at first, I thought there's some clear coat peeling here too. And again, I'd probably do the same thing. It wouldn't look perfect, but it would look good enough, you know, for an old motorcycle. Anyway, when I was going through this and I opened up this trunk, I noticed that underneath here, and finally I got the smell out of this thing. Jesus, did this thing have a smell, let me tell you. There were cats living in the saddlebags, so that'll do it. There's a bunch of fiberglass here. So at first I thought maybe it was in a rear wreck. This is a love letter to the guy that owned it. I'll get into that in a moment. But it wasn't in a rear wreck. What happened with these was the bottoms of the trunks blew out. They were just plastic and they would crack and blow out. So it's actually very common for people to fiberglass them. There is a plate on it from the previous owner as well. It's got a bunch of stuff. Like all these crash guards, I believe, are aftermarket. I could be wrong. Again, my knowledge on the full dresser versions of these isn't much. I know how the first year was because I had one, and I know how up until 82. I had 3 of them. The 82 was a full dresser, but someone ripped it down to just bare bones, and it actually had a lot of the features that this bike has, but I changed all that, and I'll talk about that in a second also. This is going to be a crazy long video probably, and I wasn't trying to have a crazy long video. I was just trying to explain my conundrum. So, seat's in perfect condition except for the top pad here. That's got some duct tape. These 2 armrest things have some duct tape. I would just change these out, but the seat itself, the main seat, is fine. It has gas in it. It's old as hell. And it looks clear in there though, but it's old gas. It's bad. I really need to drain that. I was going to do that tonight, and then I got sidetracked. It's got a hydraulic clutch. I don't know if 86 was the first year for that. Probably not. But I know that my Goldwing was an 82 and it did not have a hydraulic clutch. Or an 83. I'm sorry, mine was an 80. The one that I rode was an 83. That did not have a hydraulic clutch. I filled this up. Goldwing guys are a different breed, man. If you go online and like watch people do barn find Goldwings, like this dude like just fills this thing up and then just works this lever for about an hour, and eventually he gets the clutch back without even bleeding it, which is nuts. I mean, you can do it that way. You can get air out of here, but again, you're going to be here pumping it for an hour probably. I don't know. That guy. So the right way to do it is to break everything down. The hydraulics in here are probably good. I suspect that the slave, which is on the back of the engine here, is leaking, or will leak, given enough time. But right now, there's no clutch. But that's okay. I have none of the keys for this bike. I was going to buy them. There are people online selling the entire key set, all the latches and locks, for like $100. So I could do that. Nothing's locked. Everything's unlocked. And again, I mean, even the inside of this, look at this. It's like brand new in here. It's really nice. So I hate to just... So my thing is, I was going to part this out because the bags in good shape like this that aren't beat to shit and cracked, they go for pretty good money. If I just sold all the plastics that match, I could probably get what no one wants to give me for the bike, as crazy as that sounds. Like right now, I would let this thing go for $500. It doesn't have a title, I get it, but again, the plastics alone, if I felt like tearing it apart, I hate to, hold on. I hate to butcher this thing up and part it out. It would kill me. I know that sounds crazy because it's just an old Goldwing, but you don't see them this clean usually. Usually when you get your hands on one, believe me, I'm telling you, I've had a bunch of them. They are rough. Like I said, Goldwing guys are a different breed. I mean, these guys find a way to get these things back on the road with very minimal cost sometimes. Go online and Google Dark Side. Goldwing Dark Side. Guys on Harleys do it too. It's crazy. And honestly, I might do it if I get this thing running and get a title and everything. You get yourself a decent car tire, and that's what you run on the rear. Have a nice time. So, here's the thing. Let me flip this back around. So, what they did with Goldwings, and I think it started in 82 or 83. What you have, and you can look at all the videos on YouTube, and you'll find this out. What you have is you have two vented discs in the front, which for an 80s motorcycle is pretty wild, you know? So two vented discs in the front, a single vented disc in the back, and then you have your front brake here and your rear brake there, just like any other motorcycle. What the Honda does is this front brake only works one disc in the front. So a lot of people will ride these and they'll go to use just the front brake because a lot of people do ride like that. I'm kind of guilty of that sometimes. I mean, depending on the situation, you know, if I'm just cruising around town, a lot of times I'm really just on the front brake a lot. And it doesn't feel like it's going to stop the way that a bike should. Well, the reason is because that rear pedal works the back disc and one front disc. So if you don't use this, you're not getting your stopping power, you know, and this is a heavy bike. So that's kind of cool. And a lot of people feel differently about that. And what I was touching on before was that on my 83, that was the way it was set up too, and I got rid of that. There's a whole bunch of different calculations for master cylinder to caliper diameters, and I wound up running a certain master cylinder, and it controlled both front discs. And then the rear, I changed the rear caliper so that it would work correctly with just, you know, the slave for the rear. And it ran like a regular motorcycle, but it wasn't a bagger, so it was a lot lighter of a motorcycle than this is, you know. So none of the brakes work. That's not true. The rear / front brake actually does work. Right now, the rear is locked. The front still grabs. I'd have to fix that. And then the other thing is that the clutch, like I said, I don't know if I'd have to rebuild that. I mean, I would rebuild it, but I don't know if I'd have to use new rubbers. Probably not. And then if I was going to keep the bike, I would drain all the fluid, and I would run silicone fluid .5, because then you won't have to worry about the corrosion associated with brake fluid, and everything will last a lot longer. I actually converted the Corvair last season, And now this thing can sit forever and it'll break just fine without any worries. So I might do that. Now, I don't have the key for this. So I did break the ignition here. But another very common problem with Goldwings of this vintage is that the ignition switch is burned out. And I suspect that it's been burned out for some time, and the guy who owned this parked it because he couldn't figure it out. Because when I got the bike, I got it with a ton of starter solenoids and fuses, the fuse holder that holds the starter solenoid down here. It's right there. He probably couldn't get it started and he couldn't figure out why. That was the first hurdle. So what I did was I simply tapped the ignition. So this is two sides of the, well, it's the hot wire and then the side that goes to power the relay and coil. Yeah, starter solenoid, not coil, sorry. So if you connect these two wires together, you basically have ignition. And obviously it wouldn't stay like this. I'm just trying to assess what I have on my hands here. So that's the first thing that I did. And because the bike's been sitting for some time, it would appear that the starter is not engaging the engine. And the way that works on a Goldwing, I'll turn my jump box on. Okay. So the way that works on a Goldwing is, let me just mount that right there, is that the starter is chain driven. It goes into the side of the case, right there. And that starter snout sits right into a gear. And that gear is on a chain. And the chain goes up to basically a clutch with like a sprag on it that extends when the starter spins. And what happens is on Goldwings, even Goldwings that are ridden all the time, they stop engaging. And what you get is this. So we'll just hook up the ignition. Everything comes on now. And that's all you get. It's not actually turning anything inside the engine. So the way that you can do this sometimes is to get the bike running and then fill the crankcase with a bunch of seafoam, and that'll get you up to operating temperature once you get it running, by push starting it. And that'll break down some of the sludge that gets stuck back there, because where that's situated, there's not a lot of oil pressure. So stuff just sits back there, gets built up, and then that's what your starter does. But again, this thing's been sitting since 2009. Now, in 2009, it passed state inspection. I have all the papers. I also have the papers where the guy lost his license. I don't want to show you any of that. But I have the inspection results. It passed both times, in 2009 and I believe in 2006. And then, the carbs are free. I think that if I drain the gas, put fresh gas in it, fill the crankcase with seafoam, and can get this thing pushed down the road to start, it'll start. And at that point, the seafoam will break down the sludge, and then that starter won't be a problem anymore. The other thing with these is that they're like any other Honda car that's been made. They have two timing belts in the front, and they have a water pump driven by the timing belt, and those water pumps leak. So what you're looking at really is pulling the motor. And I've done it 1,000 times, and I don't feel like doing it right now. So if I could get it running without pulling the motor, to take that sprag, the back cover off and the sprag off, and clean out all the springs and the weights in there that make that work. Anyway, I don't know. I don't want to sell this thing because it's really, it's in really good shape. But I also don't want to get into a situation where I'm spending $1 million on this thing. I'm just not interested. You know? And I got to get a title. And I can do that. But, like, there's a lot of steps. And that costs money, too. It's not a fortune, but you're talking about a few $100. So, I don't know. I got to weigh it out. I don't want to get rid of my Indian. But it would be cool to have this thing to just ride when you really just want to go. I mean, that's what they're for. So, I don't know. It's something to think about. Well, if you hung around this long, good for you. Now you know a little bit about Goldwings.